What's the weirdest thing you've seen happen at a friend's house that they thought was normal? Prudovsky said. My friend had 9 siblings. Whenever I was there and we ate, he always told me to protect my food. He literally covered his plate by surrounding it with his arms. His brothers kept stealing food from the younger ones and their parents didn't do anything to stop them. It was just normal. Annalise I said. My roommate in college came from wealth. His dad is a well-known orthopedic surgeon. He once had to use a broom and it was so weird. He was basically using a regular broom like a hockey stick. I, having worked in restaurants my whole life, showed him how to sweep. He was not amused and I could tell he probably wouldn't need to pick up a broom ever again. He would just pay people to sweep for him the rest of his life? Which is cool if you can afford it, I guess. Philosopher said. A neighbor's dad was an avid fisherman and he would use these electrode things in the lawn to get worms to come up that he was gonna use as bait. He would also eat some of the first ones to come up to check if they tasted right. If not, he would remove the electrodes and try again another day. Darren Edwards said. My friend's dad convinced the kids that the butt of each loaf of bread was the best. He also outlawed hitting, but placing your hand on your sibling's shoulders and punching your own hand was acceptable. It was Noel's turn to get the end piece on the next loaf of bread, but he and I were playing when groceries came in. When Tony took the end piece, Noel went ballistic, but by ballistic, he placed his hand on his brother and was punching it. The father also collected pipe organs. He had several electric and electronic consoles. One time I took a trip across the country, disassemble a full pipe organ, and pack it home. They bought a geodesic dome and rebuilt the organ inside it. You entered in pipes. There were pipes on the walls, great chests for the living room floor. The living room was a console and they literally lived inside a musical instrument. Dorito on repeat though said. This happened when I was like 6. I needed to use the bathroom at a friend's house and he led me to his parents' bathroom. The place was filled with crap of all sorts. Boxes, magazines, an inflatable pool, lots of other stuff. You could barely get in there. He pulled out a drawer from the installed cabinet by the entryway and said to pee in there. I thought he was joking until he went ahead and peed in there himself. I couldn't argue with that, so I too peed right in there. Then he shut the drawer and we went and played more Ninja Turtles. I have no idea what became of that drawer house family. Puddle Ahmed said. Man, that's sad. It's really hard for children of hoarders to break free from hoarding. They're just too used to tolerating bad conditions rather than fixing them. I knew a guy whose mom's house was like that. He did his best to live with higher standards, but his best was still like a party frat house. Although, I guess to be fair, some of my friends who grew up in normal houses also live like they're in a frat houses. Tabor Valence said. I grew up in a very cluttered home. My dad has hoarding issues, but because it was never filth, only lots and lots of stuff, he is somewhat valid in his claim that he is a pack rat. Our garage was so full of dusty old crap, we could only ever store more stuff in there. No parked cars, no usable workspace, not even useful storage space like cabinets and shelves. Just piles of stuff. His office was the same way, old files and old computer parts. Any available counter space in the kitchen was fair game for putting piles, like 8+ inch tall piles, of mail and papers and more stuff. I only ever realized how much my mom fought the relentless battle of clean countertops until they divorced. Within days to weeks the entire kitchen was largely unusable. I had to move piles of old papers off the stovetop to cook. I try to run a tight ship in my own home now. Working restaurant industry work for a while, and having had a very similar roommate led me to pristine conditions as my main coping strategy to de-stress. I vacuum my carpets twice weekly as a general rule, and I avoid furniture with shelves or cabinets where I can to prevent the possibility of generating clutter to begin with. Buttermilk Dad said. My partner's friends do this but with music. The dad always has the music on full blast so everyone has to yell to have a conversation. I hate going to their house. Also I hate having them over because, since they have to yell at home, they talk that way all the time. They're just super loud all the time. They're really nice people but I can't stand being around them. Nice Interaction 5177 said. Not at my friend's house, but we were 15-year-olds and went for a walk to her mom's friend's house to get her some smokes. We walked into the house and the 2-year-old was covering themselves in margarine, The floor was covered in roaches, animal poop, used nappies, diapers, and rubbish. There was peanut butter on the walls and kitchen table. It was so incredibly sad to see dirty and disheveled kids living in that. The weirdest part was seeing the toddlers smearing margarine in their hair, and no one caring. The rest was disgusting, but I'd seen that kind of living before. Never the complete indifference towards a baby though. Awful. My Muppet 78 said. Went to my friend's house after a high school exam. Walked in and his dad and stepdad were playing Sorry, while smoking cigars, and his mom was making out with some random dude on the couch. She gave $20 and told us to go get a couple large pizzas and come back. I don't know what was weirder, that my friend was like, it's not even my dad's week with me. All incredulous, or when we got back that his dad and makeout dude was gone, table all set for pizza, and his stepdad and mom acted like it was just a normal Wednesday. Zaha Moment said. God, I'm glad their shampoo thing didn't work, that's so demented. I can see how, especially as a kid, being so uncomfortable and caught off guard by the situation that you end up going through the motions rather than breaking that situation by calling your mom. Or like they're acting like it's normal, so you try to convince yourself in the moment it is, or it isn't a big deal to ease some of your discomfort. Wonder if they successfully used that tactic on some other poor kid before. The syphilis said. I'll be the weird family, although this doesn't quite fit the normal since no one thought it was normal. I was about 12 or 13 and I had a huge zit on my ass that was incredibly painful, and it was deep under the skin. I couldn't pop it no matter what, and in my extreme pain sitting down I asked my dad to pop it. He said alright, and I took down my pants and bent over. My dad then put on gloves to pop a zit. Anyway, in the middle of all this, my sister's friend, girl, at 10 or 11 walks in on us at full speed as we were behind a wall that connects the hall sector to the living room, so she was real close. She gasps and walks out of the room. Yeah, there we go. Word 01 said. In 2nd grade my friend's parents were separating and the dad kept screaming at his wife through the phone. The kids acted like it was normal, but I was freaked out. I'd seen parents argue but not lose all respect for each other. My mom told me the next day that I was to call her if that happened again. She thought it close to becoming a domestic incident. Tuesday said. LPT, leave the house for at least 2 weeks. When you return, whatever it smells like to you is what it has smelled like to others for a very long time. When I bought a house, I moved before the contract closed, and hit a snag on closing day. Had to move back into my old house for a week or so. Everyone told me the old place had a mold problem. Felt sick as soon as I entered the old house, when 2 weeks prior I didn't notice. Manimal 31 said. I saw the mom of my friend laying on the couch and her son was petting her women bits with his foot. And it wasn't the right kind of playful. It was very sexual, and the look on both of their face was like right before a porn movie. My friend and I were right there and nobody batted an eye. In fact, she started to give me the same look. Me and my friend were 15 and his younger brother 11. Bob Swore said. When I was 9 or 10 I stayed at this friend's house for the first time. So we were sitting at the kitchen table eating noodles and his mum said something, to which he screamed back at her, "Get fucked, Sharon." She didn't even bat an eyelid, didn't even care. I couldn't help thinking what would happen if I tried that at home. It would have been at least an ass whooping. Nopinanaditwal said. Ooh man, I've been there. When I was staying at a friend's house for the first time, she asked her parents to take us somewhere and, when they said no, she lost her shit. She started screaming at the top of her lungs and crying, "You fucking assholes, I fucking hate you both, you're shitty piece of shit parents." We were like 13-14, the weirdest part was they just sat there ignoring her and shaking their heads. If I ever spoke to one of my parents that way, I guarantee they would have kicked me out or beat me with a wooden spoon. Pigeon Tangerine 74 said. When I was in elementary school, there was a family in the neighborhood that had a son and daughter same age as my brother and me, so we played a lot in the street. The few times my mom met the kids, she went on and on about how polite and well-behaved they were because they said please and thank you and may I and called the adults MR and the MRS and all that. We were decently behaved kids, but we didn't have formal manners like that, just never had those habits. For weeks, my mom was all, "Why can't you be more like the C kids, and you should say please and thank you like the C kids, and those C kids are the most polite and best behaved kids I've ever seen," etc. So the daughter had a birthday party, and I went. Someone gave her a Cabbage Patch Kid animal, and I want to say it was a bunny when she wanted a dog. I can't remember. But she lost her shit. She unwrapped the thing, then threw it across the room, stomped her feet, started crying, screaming about how it was a stupid gift because it wasn't the animal she wanted. Her mom and grandma were trying to console her, hugging her, telling her it's alright, we'll take you to the store and exchange it for the one you want, but she stormed off to her room, slammed the door, left the rest of us there bewildered. I just remember thinking how I couldn't imagine behaving like that, and if I did, no way in hell my mom and grandma would be trying to soothe me. I couldn't wait to go home and tell my mom about it. Anyway, in a twist, about a year after they'd moved in, the mom and kids got in their car in the middle of the night and fled. Turns out the dad was an abusive guy and she'd planned their escape. Made me wonder about those manners, the temper tantrum, the adult response, etc. You never know what's going on with people. In a field is empty said. I have an opposite one because I had the weird family. In high school I had a sleepover and one friend went to the kitchen in the middle of the night and saw my dad inebriated, in his underwear and stained shirt, on his knees in front of the fridge drinking mustard out of the bottle. Monday rolls around and the rumors have spread and I was like, wait. All your dads don't do that too, lol btw. He did in fact have his own separate mustard bottle. Farmer Derpy said. My childhood best friend lived with his grandparents. His grandfather was a clockmaker. He mostly restored them. Their large two-story house's walls were covered in old restored grandfather and cuckoo clocks. Each one had a small sticker with a number so he could keep track of them all. The highest number I saw was over 700. I would say 25% of them were wounds, so every hour you were treated to a symphony of clocks. I didn't appreciate it when I was a kid, but those clocks were fantastic pieces of workmanship. Fletcher42 said. When I was a kid I visited Albania with my dad. This was in 1992, just after communism had collapsed, and everyone was barely scraping by. We were driving through the mountains, and stopped to take a leak or something, and this kid comes running out of a nearby shack, with his mom not far behind. He's got a rusty tin can full of cream milk still warm from the cow. To paint a picture, it was about half cream and half milk. This was not homogenized, it was very separated and almost clumpy. I was 12 years old, but even then I could tell they were giving us the best thing they could offer. Just because we were strangers passing by. It was honestly a bit hard to choke down, but I did it with a smile. I ended up doing that a lot, while I was there, haha. President Calhoun said when I was in high school, a friend asked me and two other friends to his house for dinner. His mom served homemade bean soup, which was very good. Toward the end of the main course, she brought out chocolate cake for dessert. She cut each of us a slice and plopped it into her bowls, in which we each still had about an inch of soup. Us guests exchanged puzzled glances, but the family dug right in, so apparently chocolate cake soaked in bean soup was an ordinary thing for them. SteelPup6 said. In high school I would stay at my friend's house a lot and play video games and sleep over. My friend's mom would encourage his little sister and her friends to put on skimpy outfits and try to seduce me and his other friends, take their tops off in the hot tub and things like that. His mom would stand at her bedroom window and watch her daughter try to bang all his friends. I didn't get it at the time, but I secretly think his mom was the one who wanted to bang all of us, so she told her daughter to instead. His mom would also drink a bottle of wine and touch us inappropriately, touch our stomachs or slap our butts, and say things like, "Oh, have you been working out?" And my friend would just say like, "Cut it out, mom, you're embarrassing me." The whole family was weirdly sexual, and I learned later they had some dark secrets. Shigui said. My mom does this. She says she likes how mindless it is and likes making fun of the clothes and the presenters for being so enthusiastic about overpriced garbage, but she also tends to buy at least one thing on her binges. Granted, other people like it because the hosts feel more touchable than other people on the TV and you can talk to them if you pick up the phone. If you have no other form of human connection, then that's very powerful. I've seen them remember a caller before and talk about something they bought, and it may only be a 30-second conversation, but that's more than they normally get. I swear you can hear the desperation in some of these people's voices when they call in and try to keep their hosts on the line for another few seconds. It's sad as hell. Lack74 said. I celebrated Christmas with my HS girlfriend's family one year. It was her mother's turn to open her presents and she opened one from her daughter, then one from her other daughter, then finally one from her husband. Then her husband started pulling tiny hidden gifts for his wife from everywhere, earrings from the couch cushions, necklaces, bracelets, a bag of candy, and flowers. He had at least a dozen presents hidden everywhere, from behind the curtains, in a lampshade, behind the TV, in a closet. They just kept coming, and he had the biggest grin on his face. When he was done, he wished her a Merry Christmas, told her he loved her, and kissed her right on the mouth in front of me. It was wonderful but extremely weird to me. It wasn't until that display of love and joy for his wife that I realized I had never once seen my own parents act the least bit affectionate towards each other. That I had never heard them say "I love you" to each other. That's when I realized it was my family that was weird. It wasn't until that display of love for his wife that I realized that it was manly to be romantic and to show love and affection. Her parents were wonderful people, and I will always regard them as role models. I hope they're doing well all these years later. Florida said, "One of the first times I met my husband's family, I was over at their house and husband gestured for me to sit down and be comfortable. Their house was really very cluttered. Not quite hoarder cluttered, but close. They had a couple of couches facing each other and then some other chairs. Not knowing the rules, I sat on one of the couches, which had a lot of stuffed teddy bears on it. OMG, you would think I had sat down on live bears. There were probably 20-30 small, medium stuffed bears on this couch. Husband's mother and twin brother both visibly reacted as if I had damaged the bears. Not antique bears either. That was when I was told that the couch was for the bears, and only for the bears, and that no one was allowed to sit on the bears' couch. Just the bears. The bears all had little beaded necklaces with their names on them to tell them apart because they were all the same brand and style." Shinzo 19 said, "When I was younger I was best friends with two brothers from Jamaica. One of the days they asked me to stay over so we could play some Atari after we finished playing outside. We came home 12 minutes after their curfew, so their dad, who was extremely calm, told us to sit in the living room. I sat in there with my two friends and they were super quiet, which was a bit weird until their dad walks in with a belt and beat the living shit out of them. I shit myself, not literally, because I thought I was in for a beating, but he didn't hit me, which was a huge relief. After the beating their dad, asked if I would like some carrot juice while my friends just went back to normal and set up their Atari like nothing happened. I was sat on the sofa wondering what the fuck just went on." Shijiakan said, "I didn't see this happen, thank fucking God, but here's the story. I had recently moved to a new town before my freshman year, little shithole in KS, and made a few good acquaintances, but was still learning who's interesting and who isn't, etc. This one kid, I honestly don't remember his name, seemed cool. He was into video games and stuff. We hit it off, ended up hanging out at school off and on, etc. So, one day, he asks if I want to come over after school, and I couldn't for some reason, probably work, I don't remember. He says to me, that's fine, I'm sure my neighbor will come over and we'll end up watching movies and jerking off anyway. I laughed, thinking he was being facetious or whatever, but he doesn't laugh. He does not laugh. Looks at me and turns his head a bit. I'm serious. My dad's friend comes over and we watch movies and jerk off. I thought you might want to. I did not continue the conversation. I never spoke to him again, and I also never said a thing about it to anyone. Looking back, I wish I had. Pretty sure that dude was being molested, and looking back and knowing what I know now, the fact that he was so matter-of-fact about it, I bet money he had been molested most of his life. Fucking terrible. Madafika said. Was in like 4th grade. Went to this kid's house to spend the night. This guy seemed perfectly normal at school, but dude's home life was fucked. He had a lot of porn. This was before everyone had the internet, and I had friends whose older brother had a Playboy or something. But this kid had a fucking bookshelf full of like. Well, Hustler was the most tame thing he had. Lots of weird fetish stuff. And a whole bunch of magazines that were full of pregnant ladies. In his room he had a poster of a fucking Klan member pointing, saying something like, I want you to keep your heritage pure or some such shit. Dude's like, yeah, my dad and brother are both in the Klan. I can't wait till I'm old enough to join. Nah, fuck that, I don't feel good. I need my mom to come pick me up. Mkel said. Back in high school I was chilling with some friends, but one of them I didn't really know well and only met twice cause he was more my other friend's friend. We were all smoking weed and ran out, and this other friend who I didn't know said we could go to his house and get some from his dad's stash. Alright, so we all go over, and as soon as I walk in, there's a fucking pig just laying in the living room. It was a full-size fucking pig, not a miniature one. We go upstairs and start rolling, and I shit you not, a fucking goat walks in. I mean, whatever floats your boat, I guess. Grammar Chick said. My friend invited me to sleep over, and the next morning we were eating and talking with her mom. Her mom asks if she wants to prank Dad again, and my friend's all yes. He was so mad I thought they had maybe swapped shampoo with Nair or something, so I regrettably asked what they did last time. It turned out they had tied string around his penis while he was passed out from pain meds and woke him up by tying the string to the bedroom doorknob and then slamming the door. My friend was a 9-year-old girl, and her mom got her in on that. Doing it at all was effed up, but you are gonna put your kid in the mix? They assured me they messed with him like that all the time. It was fine. Took a hard pass on staying over again, because I did not want to know what they tied a string to for sleeping females, or what other shit I might walk in on. Edit. Someone asked if I was still friends with this person. It's been 31 years, and I'm glad to say I haven't had her crazy family in my life for 30 of those. I had a pretty dysfunctional home, but it was nothing like that. Lil Strawberry said. I was sleeping over at a friend's house. Her whole house was a mess and it smelled like the concentrated essence of ashtray. We went upstairs to make the bed, and there was this sort of storage room, with a mattress with brown stains on it. She said that I'd be sleeping on that. I thought she was joking, but she wasn't. Also, she didn't give me any sheets or a pillow, and there were mouse feces on the ground. I was so flabbergasted that I did not do or say anything, but if that were to happen to me now, I'd just go home. Also, one time this same girl was complaining to me that her parents don't clean their kitchen very well and that her dad took the blender cup from the blender and there was a lot of nasty stuff underneath it. Some time later she invited me over for dinner and I said I wasn't interested. She wanted to know the reason, so I told her that what she had told me put me off. She was very pissed at me, but I was like, you were complaining about this though, so you agree with me?